Hey everyone, my name is Brendan and welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at some pretty convincing evidence that another cryptocurrency bull market is coming. And I think one of the best examples out there is this monthly RSI chart, because when we zoom out from things like the hourly or the daily to more of the weekly and monthly timescales, we get to see some of the bigger pictures of what Bitcoin has done in its previous market cycles and popular areas that it likes to touch. And this chart really shows this to the best extent. And so when we're looking at this, what we can see immediately is pretty much where Bitcoin peaked and where Bitcoin bottomed in every bull market and bear market throughout all of its major cycles. And there's a couple that are left out here, but we're going to be taking a look at those once we get a little bit later on in the video, because there's a really cool article that highlights all of that. But when we're looking at this, I want everyone to acknowledge the trend that is happening here. So the RSI stands for the Relative Strength Index, and it represents quite literally that. And so when Bitcoin has a popular retrace area or a popular touch point area that it likes to reach in a bull market or a bear market, we would expect that to be reflected in something like the RSI. And if we zoom out to our monthly timescale, which we already have pulled up, we can see that throughout pretty much every major peak in Bitcoin's history. We're talking 2013, 2014, 2018, right after the 2017 bull run, and also 2021, these peaked all at pretty much the exact same spot around the 92-93 area on the Relative Strength Index. And if we kind of circle everything that's happening here, we can see that all of these peaks happen at pretty much the exact same point. Now, the same goes for the bear markets as well. We're talking the great 2014-2015 bear market, the great 2018 bear market, the 2020 crash, which was a little bit higher because of how short-lived it was, and most recently, the 2022 crash. And what do you know? If we zoom out and we look at this chart, pretty much all of these are in the exact same area as well. So if we want to erase all of our drawings and kind of just highlight what this area looks like, we can see that all of these bottoms are still relatively in the same area, especially for the ones that are these extended bear markets like 2014, 18, and 2022. And so I don't think this is any kind of a coincidence that all of the bull markets end in the same area and all of the bear markets end in the same area as well. And if you look at where we're at right now, we've already seen a little bit of a bounce, but this is a very popular retrace area for Bitcoin on its monthly RSI. Now, we would also expect that if we were to zoom in to something like a weekly, we would also be able to see a reflection of this. And if we go over to the weekly RSI, we actually see a pretty convincing argument as well. And saying that every time that we have these major bull markets, we can see that the same concept applies here, except with a little bit more depth and volume, because instead of breaking this down in monthly candles, we're breaking it down now in weekly candles. And so we can kind of see that the exact same thing happens over here, and that every time Bitcoin wants to top out, it reaches a relative level on the RSI. And every time Bitcoin bottoms during a major bear market, what do you know? We just barely pierce through the bottom of this oversold territory on the RSI, which is represented by the 30 range. And so as soon as we exit out of the purple here, we are in the oversold territory. And so when we're looking at the 2014 bottom, this is exactly what we see. And then when we're looking at 2018, what do you know? We pierced into this oversold territory again. And again, this is not the exact same thing. We're not saying that this is going to be a carbon copy of what we had previously seen. This time it was a little bit lower, this time it was a little bit higher, this time it's a little bit lower again, and that's perfectly okay, because understanding the bigger picture here is going to be key. And so now that we have reached this area and begun to bounce, it doesn't mean that we can't go lower, but I think that it does signify, if history is to repeat itself, and if Bitcoin's past of almost 10 years now means anything, it's that this is a pretty good sign that the worst of what we have seen is behind us. You know, maybe we do go a little bit lower, maybe we do see a little bit more volatility from the bears, but looking at this chart kind of just in a sideways motion, there is a typical range where Bitcoin likes to top and a typical range where it likes to bottom. It's not to the exact same decimal point every time, but it gives us a good understanding of, hey, maybe I shouldn't be shorting the market anymore, or maybe I should start to layer buys back in. And one of the big things that came to my realization the other day is I was saying I stopped my reoccurring buys, and I was talking to some of the analysts over at the Crypt Nation team, and we were kind of talking about the fundamentals of a reversal, and we're looking at some of these charts along a lot of other evidence for the traditional markets as well. And it kind of got me thinking, why would I stop my reoccurring buys right down here? And why would I have let reoccurring buys go, pretty much like since like this area? So why would I do all my reoccurring buys here and refuse to buy down here? And it doesn't make any sense, to be honest. And so it kind of got me thinking, maybe I need to be the one to zoom out sometimes. And I think everyone can learn a lesson from this. So there is a lot going around in the world of crypto. And also, if we're looking at the weekly time scale, one of the coolest things that we're seeing right now, and that we have seen for the past month or so, is this triple bullish divergence playing out just beautifully on the weekly MACD. Because what we have is 1, 2, 3 lower swing highs on a very large time scale, and what we could even be waiting for is maybe like a quadruple bullish divergence. And so if this rounds off and comes back down and we have some sort of quadruple bullish divergence, I will be extremely bullish on Bitcoin. Now, we covered all of this in the Crypt Nation VIP call yesterday, so if you're a member of there, of course you get access to all of this information early, and if you want to join that, there is a link in the description down below. It's a great place to be. I'm one of the analysts over there, and so obviously I'm a little bit biased, but I do enjoy speaking over there. But with looking at some of the macros, my goal, and I think the last thing that I probably missed here, was also looking at the weekly chart, but we'll dive into that right now. But my goal here through some of the RSI and the MACDs on these zoomed out timescales is to help everyone understand that there are popular retracement points in these extended bear markets, and we have seen several of them across Bitcoin's history. And this is a really cool article. I suggest everyone go and check it out. It is a brief history of Bitcoin's crashes and bear markets since its inception in 2009, and it covers 5 really, really good examples. Now, if we were to go through all of these, this would probably end up being like a half-an-hour video, but just briefly, I will kind of skim through this, and it talks about the 2011 one, the 2015 one, which we covered in this video, the 2017 one, which we also covered in this video, and then, of course, the great 2021 and the 2022 bear market as well. So lots of great examples out there. I think the reassuring thing here is that if you're new to crypto, this has happened before. In fact, this has happened a number of times before. So if you're new to the bear market, don't freak out. It's all a pretty normal thing. Even breaking below the 20-day moving average is a pretty normal thing. So when we're looking at some of these previous bear markets, if we look at where we're at today, and I'm just using a log chart to kind of better show this. Also, I'm going to put this on auto so that we can see this just a little bit easier. But one of the things to understand is that we have already fallen around 75% from the top of our market to where we're currently at right now. Bitcoin has fallen roughly 75%. Now, this in comparison to previous bear markets, if we want to look at something like the COVID crash, this one was 71%. And if we want to look at the 2018 bear market, this guy was a little bit more, around 84%. And if we were to go all the way back to 2014, guess what? This one was 87 or 86%. So we've seen worse in the past, and we've certainly seen worse in the past. And so 75% is a pretty standard drop for these extended bear markets. And I don't know if you picked up on it, but one of the reoccurring themes here is that we got less volatile. We had 86% here. And then if we zoom in, we had maybe like 84% here. And then we had, guess what? I forget what this one was, but I think this one was like 71% or something along those lines. 72%. We had a 72% crash during the COVID crash. And now if you're looking at where we're at the current spot of Bitcoin, we have fallen 75%. So there's a little bit of a reoccurring theme in that as Bitcoin's market cap gets larger, these bear markets are slightly less volatile, going from 86 to 84 to 72 to 75. And so over the span of time, as Bitcoin increases in market cap, as it becomes a larger asset class, it is becoming a little bit less volatile. And that's just because the amount of money that it takes to move Bitcoin is significantly larger than it used to be in some of these previous bear cycles. And so my goal of this is to really help everyone understand what are the macros. Is another cryptocurrency bull market coming? And I think the answer right here is that if we're judging sheerly off of historical analysis, the answer would likely be yes. I don't think anyone's really arguing. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there arguing that cryptocurrency will never see another bull market, but I think that argument is very unlikely, and the evidence for that is rather lackluster, because what we're seeing is that when Bitcoin reaches around a 75 to 85, when Bitcoin reaches around a 70 to 80% drop from its all-time high to where it's currently bottomed at, that's typically a bottoming spot for Bitcoin. Another great indicator is where does Bitcoin drop on the monthly and the weekly RSI? Well, we've already hit that target as well. Well, what about the 200 EMA or the 200-day moving average? Well, if you look, we've already hit that guy as well. So we've already hit all of the major bottoming factors that it takes for cryptocurrency to truly see a reversal. And maybe there are a couple more out there. I think in order to fully say that the crypto market is in a reverse, it needs to form higher swing highs, and it needs to get back above the 200-day moving average instead of the 200 weekly moving average. And those are really the only things that we're missing here. But when we are on the zoomed out chart, we've pretty much hit all of the major factors that we need to see for bottoms, at least in comparison to some of the previous bottoms, right? So there's plenty of evidence out there. Hopefully this was able to clarify just what my stance is on the market. I was trading this a lot, and it was so easy for me to get zoomed in and miss a lot that was happening on the larger time frames. And sometimes I just need a video like this where I just zoom out. We're not looking at the daily or the hourly or the minute chart or anything like that. We're looking at the monthly and the weekly, and kind of taking a little bit of a historical approach as to what's happened in the past of Bitcoin. But I hope everyone did enjoy this video. There was so much great stuff to talk about, and we are running a little bit long here. But if you did enjoy this video, consider hitting the like and subscribe button, as it does help out the channel a lot. And until next time, I will see all of you in next week's video.